Will the chief clerk please call the name of the member who's voting remotely?
Cagle.
Okay, here you go.
Cagle, present.
Cagle, present.
The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 93rd Session, 2024, 87th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, February 29th, 2024.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail and the substitutions will be made. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is on your desk and online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading House File number 1990.
Second reading.
Second reading House File number 3640.
Second reading.
Second reading House File number 3646.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 3785.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 3868.
Second reading.
And second reading House File 3987.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading Senate File number 3546.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 4484 through 4588.
First reading House files 4484 through 4588. Messages from the Senate.
A message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the adoption by the Senate of the following Senate concurrent resolution herewith transmitted. Senate concurrent resolution number 8, a Senate concurrent resolution adopting deadlines for the 2024 regular session. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodden, Secretary of the Senate. Senate concurrent resolution number 8 is being referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the adoption by the Senate of the following Senate concurrent resolution herewith transmitted. Senate concurrent resolution number 9, a Senate concurrent resolution relating to adjournment for more than 3 days. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodden, Secretary of the Senate. Senate concurrent resolution number 9 is being referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3437. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3437, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to transportation designating the Michael Gow Memorial Bridge on U.S. Highway 169 over Hennepin County, State Aid Highway 9 in the city of Plymouth.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we have House File 3437, which is a memorial to a very dedicated and beloved MnDOT employee. On August 30th, 2023, Mr. Gow went to work on the construction of the Rockford Road Bridge over Highway 169, a bridge that links Plymouth and New Hope. Like many of us, when Mike left for work that morning, he expected to return home to his wife, Jennifer, at the end of the day. Unfortunately, on August 30th, 2023, that did not happen. Our state lost a dedicated and beloved MnDOT employee in a very tragic work accident. With us today, Madam Speaker, I would like to acknowledge Jennifer Gow and her daughter, Paige, are with us on the floor. Mike and Jennifer recently celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, and together they have 3 adult children, Paige, Dalton, and Andrew. And Mr. Gow had 6 grandchildren whom he described as his pride and joy. Mike never knew a stranger, and his smile drew everyone towards him. He is described by friends as the most loyal person you would ever meet. Not a sit on the couch kind of guy, Mike is described as energetic, and my favorite word, goofy. He loved to play golf and to fish, and he looked forward to taking his family time at the cabin, a true Minnesota guy. This bill, I would ask you, Madam Speaker, if you would recognize Mr. Farr to speak of Mr. Gao, and then later we can go to the amendment. Thank you.
The member from LeSueur, Representative Farr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I'm honored to be a co-author on this bill honoring Mike Gao. Mike was a dedicated public servant with 14 years of service in MnDOT and 23 years of service volunteering in the Belle Plaine Fire Department, as well as president of the LeSueur County Pioneer Power Firemen's Association. And with us here in the balcony today, we have some MnDOT workers and Belle Plaine firefighters to honor Mike as well. So Mike was a guy that believed in public service, and over the years served countless Minnesotans, providing safe roads and helping them in their most vulnerable moments. The relationships he built, working side by side with others in difficult situations, will never be forgotten. When you talk to firemen in the Belle Plaine Fire Department, they talk about Mike and his laughter, and so they will tell you that when you wanted to find Mike in the fire hall, you would just follow the laughter, and there at its origin would be Mike. He was a dedicated public servant, passing those values on to his son, who now serves our country in the armed forces. He lived his values every day and put others first, and is a positive impact for his community and his state. So I ask you to join me in passing this bill so that we may honor Mike and his service to our community and this state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Waseco, Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first, I would like to also offer my sympathies to the family. It's never a good message to hear that your loved one has passed away on the job and on the duty, and we owe a great debt for that. And I don't think anybody here has any concern about memorializing him with a memorial bridge. I do have to, though, just share a concern with the language of the bill, not from the memorial. So please understand that piece. And that is that under statute, the commissioner is required, and this is statute 169, not to erect or design a sign unless the funding is coming from non-public sources. This actually goes against that, and I realize that we're way too fast past getting that fixed at this point. However, I think we need to put on the record that future ones need to make sure that they come from non-public sources. It's just a fair thing, since we've had many memorials over the years in which they've come up with the money through individuals, groups, and support, because it's that important to all of us to memorialize the people we care and love about, okay? And so, but when we do something that actually goes against our own statutes, even if it's a one-time thing, it's something that we need to always be conscious of into the future and make sure that we know that what we're doing. So I'm just here to make sure that we put on the record that we have to do differently into the future and actually find additional funds. So thank you for that. And again, my sympathies goes to you and your family for your loss. Thank you.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Cleaborn moves to amend House Bill number 3437 as follows. The amendment is coded H343A3.
Representative Cleaborn to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the amendment is a grammatical change. The bridge, and this is a drafting error on my part, the bridge is Rockford Road, which goes over 169, as opposed to a bridge 169 going over Rockford Road. So it's just a clarification so the record is accurate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended.
Third reading, House File Number 3437, as amended.
Third reading as amended. Discussion. Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, for your consideration. I would like to address the concern of Representative Petersburg. I did, in fact, check, and this is not the first time that this has been done, and we did address that prior to the Ways and Means Committee so that we were sure that we were not starting a new precedent. So I want to address that. And to the bill as amended, I would just like to close with this statement. Mr. Gao was an individual who really paid attention to the details in life. He was an individual when he was on a fire call and a dog would be barking. He paid attention to that dog barking, and he went back into a burning building without any other indication that something was wrong except for this dog barking. And he went into that building and he pulled an individual from the burning house, and he was recognized for his heroism. And today, by passing this bill with unanimous vote, we are saying thank you for your hard work to our state, and we are saying thank you for your heroism in the service of your community and in saving lives every day and being the person that you were in that work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Morrison, Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the bill author and all the authors on this. And this is my sympathies for the sad loss. But members, on this House, we have to make decisions and we have to prioritize. And the trouble I have with this, and I'll be voting no on the bill, is not this situation in this family, but it's the ones down the road. And we lose many, many good public servants, unfortunately, too soon in life. But 134 members shouldn't decide who gets memorialized and who doesn't, and who gets paid for and who doesn't. In my own community, we have many, many memorials for officers that have died in the line of duty, or for folks, firefighters that have gone into terrible situations and not come out. And when we on the House floor decide to fund those, we pick and choose those memorials. And the sad thing about this is we take away from the families and the communities as they go through that grieving process, and they want to add to that. So with a deep and heavy heart for the family, what we're doing here is we're setting a precedent, and we're going to end up choosing who doesn't get memorialized down the road. And I think that's a really bad place to be. And so with that, I'll be voting no on this bill.
The member from Waseca, Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. I'm not sure that this body ought to set precedent that goes against our own laws and statutes. And that's a concern here. My understanding is that there was a bill many years ago for a senator in which the funding was moot and it ended up coming from state funds. But that was kind of without really knowledge about that. This is a situation where we now are knowing this, and all I'm saying is from this point forward, we need to be much more conscious about that, and we ought not to set precedent breaking our own statutes. That's not the precedent that we should do. It's just everybody should be on the same playing field. So, I still support the bill for this one particular time, but it's something that we have to be very careful, because if we're not agreeing and willing to stand up to our own regulations, then where are we? Thank you.
Any further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Will the chief clerk please call the name of the member who's voting remotely?
Cleavorn. Cagle.
Aye. Cagle, aye.
Cagle votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
On 1617.
There being 115 ayes and 17 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3489. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3489, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to education, providing for public safety, modifying the grounds for the use of reasonable force in schools.
I recognize the author of the bill. Oh, hold on just a second. There being no amendments at the desk, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3489.
Third reading. I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Hennepin, Representative Frazier, to describe the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I did appreciate a few more moments to wait on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to present House File 3489. This bill is designed to address and clarify use of force standards in our school settings. And I will say, part of this ride has been a little bumpy. It's been rocky. But I will say that any bill that you carry, there are often times when there's the kind of passion that's around this issue, particularly around our kids, around our students, and taking care of them and making sure that they're safe in their environment. So the only thing they have to worry about is coming to school and getting a good education. There will be passion around that. So I absolutely understood that. I took this bill on knowing that. I took this bill on knowing that there would be very passionate conversations from everyone, and there has been. And so with that in mind, I want to start by expressing my gratitude and admiration for the unwavering dedication, advocacy, and collaboration of all those who have contributed to refining this bill. Your voices, your expertise, and your commitment have been instrumental in shaping a legislative framework that prioritizes the safety, well-being, and dignity of our students, educators, and school resource officers. And I specifically want to send a shout out to our GOP colleagues that have been a part of this conversation. We absolutely appreciate that for many of you, for some of you, you've had lived experience and professional experiences that played a key in shaping this legislation and providing that very useful insight. The events of recent years, particularly the tragic murder of George Floyd, have brought into sharp focus the urgent need for reform in our approach to law enforcement practices, including those within our schools. In response, we have taken decisive action to update guidelines for the use of force, ensuring that our disciplinary practices align with our shared commitment to creating safe, healthy, and nurturing environments for all students. Now, despite challenges and different perspectives, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to crafting solutions that address the concerns of our students, law enforcement, school districts, and community advocates alike. The bill before us today clarifies the law regarding the use of force in schools, retaining crucial limitations on practices such as choke codes and establishing clear standards for the training and deployment of school resource officers. Importantly, this legislation prohibits SROs from being used to deliver disciplinary actions for violations of school policies, thereby minimizing harmful and disparate engagements between officers and students. The goal is to build relationships, not damage relationships. In addition, by creating a model policy through the Post Board, we're setting forth minimum standards that must be met by districts and law enforcement departments choosing to engage SRO programs, including protocols for use of force, de-escalation techniques, and the duty to render care. As we move forward together, it is imperative that we continue to engage with impacted communities, including law enforcement, education experts, local governments, and youth advocacy organizations. By working together, we can ensure that our schools are safe, inclusive, and supportive environments where every student has the opportunity to thrive. I'll yield my time for more comments at the end. I'm looking forward to this discussion with everybody.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Sherburne, Representative Novotny.
Madam Speaker, I am so relieved that we are finally coming to the end of the road in this bill and that we can change our focus and get on to the things that we should have been doing in the first week had we been able to fix this right away. Had it not been for the unvetted irresponsible changes made by the Senate bill that never came to public safety, we wouldn't be here having this discussion now. So thank you, Representative Frazier and Chair Moeller, for bringing this forward and that we get this fixed. And I'd just like to say that this is just another case where there's people making horrible statements that are unsubstantiated. And I'll go back to another saying that my dad used to have is, if you have an undefensible position, your only choice is to attack. And for those of you on the other side that are getting attacked, and we've seen some of the social media, I apologize that you have to go through that. I'm sorry that you have to go through that, but you're doing the right thing. Thank you for doing the right thing.
A member from Scott, Representative Bakeberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members. I'm happy that we have the opportunity to address this issue 7 months into the school year. I've had the privilege to work hand in hand with countless school resource officers that do a fantastic job building relationships with kids. That is why many of them are referred to not as school resource officers, but rather school relationship officers. That is the foundation of what they do, building relationships with students, with our most prized possession that we have, our kids, and also our staff in schools. Educators, there's been Lee Novotny talked about it. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of rhetoric around this bill. Educators want kids in their classroom. I said earlier today, a kid can't learn math if they're not in math class. So educators want kids in their room so that they can learn. We have a suspension issue in Minnesota. I think that's a bipartisan agreement. If you look at data, it's very easy to see that. But you have to dig into the data and actually address the root cause of why we have that issue. The simple fact that the soft on discipline or non-exclusionary discipline legislation passed in the last session is tying the hands of our educators, and they are asking for our help. The ban on K-3 suspensions is not helping. Okay, we want kids to have recess. There's absolutely no doubt. For anyone that's been in a school recently, if you haven't, I'd invite you to go look or go visit. We need kids to move, but we also have to have the tools to hold kids accountable, and then also sometimes just get parents to the table so that we can partner with parents. One thing that's often lost when we're holding kids accountable, when a second or third grader is suspended, there is teaching happening. Our behavior specialists are working with kids. Our licensed teachers are working with kids and teaching them the expected behaviors. Overwhelmingly, the feedback I've got from teachers, from principals, has been, we completely understand that there's an issue with suspensions. We want to work to address that. But we need concrete ideas on Tuesday morning when the student has repeatedly done things to the student sitting next to them. What is that teacher supposed to do? Continue to allow that kid to be in the class and disrupt the classroom? That's unacceptable, because the victim has the right to learn math as well. And when we do not remove students from class, they do not have, those students, other students don't have the right to learn. So here's how it happens in my building. We could pull up the staff handbook and we could walk through it, but every teacher is directed. There are 2 redirections. Students misbehaving, oftentimes they'll walk over and they'll just use proximity and sit there and stand and continue to teach just like I'm doing. Representative Olson isn't paying attention, so maybe we could use proximity with some people in the chamber as well. But that's one intervention. And then, when the student still doesn't change their behavior, some of our teachers who are parents, they use their parent eye. And if the kid still doesn't change their behavior, guess what? The kid is removed from class because everyone else in that class has the right to learn. Behavior is communication. So if Representative Olson is not changing his behavior after 2 interventions, guess what? He has a different need. And we remove him from class so that he can get his needs met as well. And then, you can't go anywhere. And then we remove that, we put that student back in class. Now, does that happen everywhere? Nope. Is that perfect every time? Nope. Have I made mistakes as a professional, as a principal, as a teacher? Absolutely. I had the pastors that come around and pray for us. One of them, he transferred into my first class. In 2001, he transferred in halfway through the year, and it was awesome talking to Danny in my class. He still called me Mr. Bakeberg, which felt weird to have a grown man do that. But, yeah, I'm getting old. But we talked about just the expectations. And the legislation passed last year did not help our educators. The soft on discipline, the non-exclusionary discipline did not help our educators. To be blunt, educators don't want us in this chamber to tell them how to do their job. They're doing just fine. I want to address some of the rhetoric as well. So for those of you that Representative Frazier, Chair Moeller, Representative Whitty, thank you for the work you guys have done on this bill. But we need to keep in mind that getting our SROs back are the first step. This is the first step ensuring that our schools are safe. And then we need to work with our educators. And frankly, we need to stop the rhetoric. We need to stop the negative rhetoric around law enforcement because it's not helpful. We need to stop the negative rhetoric around educators because it's not helpful. And when we disagree, we need to stop the negative rhetoric. My dad used to say, and it's actually, I think it's still on a pallet in Representative Hudson's district, one of his school districts. It says, right is right, even if everyone is doing it. Wrong is wrong, even if, I think I flipped that around. Right is right, even if nobody's doing it. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. We need to support our educators. And this is the first step. This is the first step to improve school safety across the state. And I look forward to working across the aisle to continue to make our schools safe. Vote green.
The member from Dakota, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I'm going to be voting for this bill today because law enforcement has worked hard to come to some kind of workable solution. Not ideal, but it's irresponsible, the process that this matter came before us. It's irresponsible that law enforcement and public safety, the Public Safety Committee was not consulted in the original process of passing this and trying to sneak it in kind of in the middle, dark of night. But we know that middle school students and teachers and parents want school resource officers in their schools. And I want to thank the work of Representative Novotny and my housemate, Representative Whitty, for sticking with this and standing up for law enforcement and standing up for students and standing up for parents and teachers to correct this egregious mistake. But also, I was able to be a principal for a day a couple months back in one of the middle schools in my district. And I heard a story. We're just going to make up a name, a student, a middle school student. Let's say her name was Kayla. It's not her real name. But in Lakeville, we have school resource officers, and they're there to build relationships with the students. One of the other schools, the police chief regularly comes in and has lunch with students and builds a relationship. But in this particular middle school, Kayla was kind of having problems. Teachers kind of recognized it. They weren't sure what was going on because they weren't as trained as maybe a school resource officer was. But the school resource officer built trust and a relationship with Kayla and eventually found out that Kayla was being abused. Kayla was being abused and nobody was there to really help her except for that school resource officer. And luckily, she was there, and that abuser is now facing justice, and Kayla can continue to learn. It's shameful that originally passed to take school resource officers, put them in jeopardy, and take them out of the schools. So thank you, Representative Whitty, Representative Novotny, and those that are be supporting this bill. But our law enforcement shouldn't have to second-guess themselves, and neither should our teachers. And I want to thank the school resource officers in my district for being there for our students. Thank you.
The member from Morrison, Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the bill authors for bringing this forward. Thank you for your work, Representative Whitty, Representative Bakebird, and Novotny. Just a couple of thoughts on this. I'm happy to vote yes on this, but we shouldn't be here. It's irresponsible that it came to this level. We were looking at this in February, and we had raised the alarm. Many people had raised the alarm, frankly, on both sides. And we even had a governor at the state fair say, yes, we could fix this quickly. We could have done that before school started. It was irresponsible to push this far. We have to trust our law enforcement. We have to remember the men and women that are working in these schools are building relationships, they're repairing lives, and they're helping students who otherwise might not have that security in life. That's what this is about. Members, it is irresponsible to continue to push the narrative of defund the police. It is irresponsible to use politics and special interest groups to get us in a situation like this where, frankly, schools can be left unsafe. We have teachers. I've been a teacher. I still work in the classrooms. And if you don't have that security and that safety, the education just can't happen. So thank you for the work on this. I'm glad we're here. Let's continue to support our law enforcement. Let's continue to support the safety for our teachers and all the employees and the students in these classrooms. And thank you for this bill.
The member from Dakota, Representative Whitty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Back in August, law enforcement reached out and we held that first press conference, and our hand was out looking for a bipartisan solution. Always thinking that, I think on both sides, we want to make sure our schools, our kids, and our teachers are safe. I think we all agree on that. For me, it was first stated that this was done in a political manner, but I've always had my hand out, willing to work, and for me, it's actually personal. For 27 years, you all know I've put on a uniform, but for 4 of those years, I was a school resource officer. And the job of our SROs are to build relationships, be a resource, prevent and deter activity within our school, but most importantly, to build trust. And that's what we need as everything is going on around us. We need to build that trust. We held some roundtable discussions with our key stakeholders, teachers, law enforcement, city officials, community officials, to hear back in October what was happening in our schools and why we needed to get our school resource officers back into schools. We got back into session and we continued on, and I appreciate Chair Moeller and Representative Frazier for finally taking my hand. And I think in the end, this will be a bipartisan fix to something that really didn't have to, and I think we all agree maybe the process, we could have, if it would have came through public safety, and we could have done this work back then. But I appreciate you reaching out. A lot of times when you have a bipartisan bill, It's a compromise. And there's compromises all over this on both sides. I know our law enforcement has compromised, but my only concern is that the last 7 months, we have seen videos and heard stories of dangerous and chaotic episodes in our schools across Minnesota. That's from the letter that you guys all received from Sheriff Duana Witt. She was a part of our discussions, and she brought the meaningful experience, and I think that was helpful. And so I appreciate that discussion that we had, and that you allowed me to bring my experience to the table. Ultimately, we want our schools to be safe, our students, teachers, and staff. Please vote yes, and let's get our SROs, school resource officers, back in school as soon as possible. Thank you.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, like I started at the start, I said a lot of passion around this topic, a lot of different views and perspectives. What I'll bring us back to is that we do this for our kids. We do this for our young people. We do this to make sure that the only thing they have to worry about when they get off that bus or they walk through that door at the beginning of the day is worry about the education that they're going to get that day. That's the only thing they should have to worry about. Now, none of these adults need to be coddled. We don't need to be told how great we are. We just need to focus on our kids and worry about making sure they're okay. That is what this bill is about. It creates a framework for the entire state now. There will be transparency. There will be accountability if necessary. Those are the important things and messages that I heard as we were working to put the bill in the shape that it's in now to get to this point. I am happy that it's bipartisan. I always say we should strive to have bipartisan agreements when we can. I think it's important to do that. It's important for the state to see us working together, especially in the moments that we're in right now. It's important for them to see that we can do something together and move forward together. Now, I could stand here and say a lot of things about community safety and public safety and all of the other pieces, the root causes that lead to that. But that's not what this bill is about in particular. This bill is about a clarification of the use of force in our school buildings. I think we've addressed the issue, and I'm looking forward, and I'm excited to move forward together and continue to work on other things. Vote green.
The member from Stearns, Representative Demuth, the minority leader.
Thank you, Speaker Hortman. Members, I am grateful that we are here today. As you know, Republicans have been asking and calling for this fix since August. The delay has been irresponsible, but I am grateful that we are in this place and can finally take a vote on it. School resource officers or school relation officers are a valuable part to the school districts that choose. It is not a mandate, but they choose to have them in their buildings. They serve a great part of keeping our teachers, our students, our staff, and actually the community safe. Multiple surveys, student surveys, show that 90% of students want their school resource officers in schools. They know that they build the relationships with students, they address dangerous situations, and they actually make the students feel a little bit safer so they can focus on their job at hand, which is to learn. Despite the irresponsible delays of Democrats throwing roadblocks time after time after time since August, we have finally reached that agreement. That includes the stakeholders, the ones that should have been involved from the very beginning last year. So fixing this law as soon as possible, which, members, today is the day, should be the priority of every legislator, no matter what party. I want to thank Representative Witte for his hard work on this bill, bringing together those stakeholders and creating a solution that does have bipartisan support. I look forward to voting yes on this bill and getting our school resource officers back into the schools as soon as possible. I do hope every member of this body will join me on that yes vote. Although we wanted to have a call of the House, we are not doing that today. But it is very important that us, all of us in this room, in our desks, serving our constituents, serving the state of Minnesota, will push our own button to make the vote that we know is right. Members, I would encourage a green vote.
The member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Several years ago, the legislature acted to protect students with disabilities from being placed in potentially dangerous restraints. As the policy was being implemented, it became clear that it is not always apparent which students in the schools have disabilities and which don't. Students don't walk down the hallway with a sign saying, "I have an IEP." So the legislature last year made an effort to update the law to apply it to all students, also coming on in the wake of the tragic killing of George Floyd and seeing the impact that a compressive prone restraint can have. Some districts found the law that we passed last year unclear, so there has been an important stakeholder process in the months since then to work to get this right. It is not easy when there is public safety and education policy intersecting. These are two complicated areas of law, and I want to thank Representative Frazier in particular for his very hard work over many months in trying to bring together stakeholders, as he mentioned, with different points of view and different concerns to the table. I also want to thank Chairs Moeller, Chairs Pryor, and Chairs Joachim for many months of effort as well in the working group. And I think it is important that this is bipartisan because we want to set this right and we want to make sure that this is a solution that can stand the test of time. And I want to thank Representative Whitty in particular for his work on the effort. The law today clarifies the status of SROs for the first time. It requires training. It brings stakeholders together to create a model policy. And it specifies that SROs are not in schools to enforce school policies, but to uphold the law. These are difficult conversations, but this product before us today is an important compromise that helps achieve the goal that we all have, that we all share in this room, of keeping our kids safe in their schools. It has earned the support of the Chiefs Association, the Police and Peace Officers Association, the Sheriff's Association, and with passage today, we will be providing that important clarity to our school districts that choose to have SROs in their schools, to the SROs themselves, and to our students. I urge a green vote.
The clerk will take the roll. Will the clerk please call the name of the member who's voting remotely?
Cagle.
Cagle, aye.
Cagle votes aye.
Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 124 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There's copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Announcements.
One more motion.
Motion.
Lee Kay moves that House Bill number 3784 be recalled from the Committee on Economic Development, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on State and Local Government, Finance, and Policy.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. This bill, because of its title, was mistakenly referred to this committee, and I've talked to both chairs, and they agree.
Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion prevails. Announcements. Members, any announcements?